attending Civil Service Commission meetings held in the Madera County Board of Supervisors chambers are required to wear face coverings. This falls within the guidelines of being in a high-risk situation when in an indoor public space and or interacting in person with any member of the public. Those individuals exempted from wearing face coverings due to a medical condition should wear a non-restrictive alternative, such as a face shield with a drape on the bottom edge. Okay, public comment. This time is made available for comments from the public on matters within the Civil Service Commission's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Do we have anybody? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to the consent calendar. Okay, do you need a minute? Okay.
I move we adopt the consent calendar.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent calendar. Roll call.
All right.
Okay.
Commissioner Atwood,
Yes.
Commissioner Fry,
Yes.
Commissioner Joe Rios, Commissioner Weisner,
Yes.
Commissioner Myers.
Yes.
I have a 5-0 vote.
Okay, number 3, regular business. 3A is, oh, I don't want one. My 7103, consideration to adopt classification specification for assistant sheriff.
Good evening, commissioners. So this is a new classification request from the Sheriff's Department. They're in the process of doing a reorganization of the Sheriff's Department and the Correctional Department and trying to merge the departments where the Sheriff's Office is going to be overseeing the correctional facilities. So as part of that process is they're requesting to create a new classification of assistant sheriff. What that position is going to be doing is essentially replacing the director of corrections when that person retires. It would be the assistant sheriff that's going to be there who is going to report to the undersheriff. Undersheriff Majeski is here if you have any specific questions or need additional information about the classification. I also do want to point out that the classification itself is a little bit different and it has a little bit more information on the actual physical requirements, mental requirements, working conditions because of some recent changes that we had in the law. We also added diversity language that's required of a new assembly bill that was added as a result of all of the changes in for peace officers. So we added that language to the job descriptions as well. The salary would be set at range 374, and this would be an unrepresented classification.
I'd like to hear a little bit about it. Is the green light on in the microphone?
Yeah, it is on.
Okay, could you state your name for the record, please?
Sure. Patrick Majeski, and I'm the undersheriff with the Sheriff's Office. And this particular position is one that we are creating that is necessary for us to really complete the reunification process with the Department of Corrections. We formed a team with Department of Corrections in regards to the reunification, and with the team, we had to figure out a way to bring on somebody that was high enough in the command structure in the management position that when the correction director leaves, this particular person would be able to basically continue operating and managing the facility, but yet still had to be high enough to where the current correction director would have somebody to answer to between, say, the commander and the undersheriff. So the commander would be too low in the structure for the Department of Correction to actually answer to. So through the team, it was actually Department of Corrections' idea to form a management position that they could, I guess, report to and be supervised by somebody within the Sheriff's Department that was high enough. So we looked through the whole state. We Basically, it was Santa Clara's model. They just did this process not too long ago. And we kind of took their model and they did the same thing. So we felt that with the information that we'd gathered through the search, this would be the best position for us to create to fulfill the reunification request by the County Board of Supervisors. So again, this person will be responsible for the overall day-to-day operations at the Department of Corrections. This person will reside out there Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. He's a sworn person, which we need to have out there for some law requirements that are in the statute right now because they don't have any sworn personnel out there at the facility. So this will fulfill that requirement. So that's why we are seeking this particular position, management position, to really complete the process and get the operation moving. Any particular questions?
Go ahead, Bill.
Just one, which is, when is this person planning on retiring?
It depends on who gets the particular position. We have 2 commanders that will be eligible to test for it. Also, if it's unrepresented, I don't know if the thought is to go outside. I don't know that we've decided who's going to get it, but it could be, are you talking about the assistant sheriff or the director of corrections?
Director of Corrections.
I don't know that when Manuel is going to retire. I'm not sure.
But sometime in the next 3 or 4 years?
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
okay.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, if he got a good golden handshake, he'd probably do it right now, but.
I'm not for spending that kind of money, Matt. No.
But no, that it's in the near future.
Okay.
And it's been no secret. Like I said, this was actually, it was his idea to bring somebody on that he could report to
Right.
for, on behalf of the sheriff's office that would live over there. So it was a great team that we formed, to move down this path. And I mean, it was quite interesting because I've been here 32 years, and ever since I've been here, it's been under the umbrella of the County Board of Supervisors, meaning the Department of Corrections. And we're the only there's 2 counties in the state that still do not run their jail. I think it's us, and if I'm not mistaken, Napa. I'm not sure the other one, but so it's been a long time coming, and I think everybody's wanted this for a while, and I think it's the best position for the county to do it now. And like I said, we formed a great team, and we spent a lot of time looking at what would be the best for the county, and this is kind of what we came up with.
Is this position between you and the sheriff?
No, it's one below, so it'd be
One
between the commander and the undersheriff. So this particular position, the assistant sheriff will report to me, and then I'll report back to the sheriff.
Okay,
So it's higher than the commander.
okay.
But again, it's that person's sole responsibility will be jail operations.
And I assume that when Manny retires, I assume that the salary is going to be a wash. One department, it isn't. I assume there's a budget for it in Department of Corrections,
Correct.
which would then be taken care of.
Yes, and I don't know the particulars in Manny's salary versus.
But
But yes, it'll be saving that position's salary.
right.
Yep.
And so that washes out. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
It's rather ironic that we're going back to the sheriff's department running the jail,
Yeah.
considering that 30 some odd years, almost 40 years ago, it was run by the county, by the sheriff's department.
Correct.
We're here in the old,
I remember when they tore that building down.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like I said, whatever happened 40 years ago between the board and whatever caused that to happen, I mean, it happened. And I don't know if that's for the good or the bad, but right now I think for the county as a whole, this is a great step forward for the county.
I always thought it should have stayed with the sheriff's department. I mean, gosh, you're taking all the prisoners in there and keeping them cities and whatnot.
Yes, but there were problems 40 years ago. So
Yeah.
Well,
And
there's some crotchety old people in both departments that needed to have some change done.
It was slightly before my time, but yeah, I think, like I said, for the county, it's a great step forward.
well, my only comment is, as I shared with you earlier, I want the weight ability. So if he's ever on a search and rescue, and Tom and I are needed, they got to be able to carry us up the hill. But I'll move.
Well,
I would-
wait a second.
Oh.
Elizabeth
I
or
have a
Joe?
question.
Okay, Joe has a question.
This individual, he's for the sheriff's department, and he's going to be at the Department of Corrections, right? What
Correct.
you're saying. Is he the one that's going to be there all the time?
Yes.
You said 8 to 5. Now, is he the only one from the sheriff's department that's going to be at the Department of Corrections?
Initially, yes, but through attrition and retirements, we'll start putting in other sworn deputies over there to fill the positions. But right now, the goal is not to we don't want to lay anybody off. Nobody's going to lose their jobs out of all this. So right now, there was no way for us to come in and put a management position in there without creating one. So as we do that, then say a lieutenant leaves over there, retires or moves on to, greener fields, then we can come back in and put a sheriff's lieutenant over there. And through attrition and time, we will have more and more sheriff's employees over there. I mean, I say sheriff, we're all sheriffs, but we'll have more sworn deputies over there. And that's the issue right now, is there's just no sworn people over there.
So more or less, how many sheriffs are you going to have in there?
Well, eventually, I mean, that's a hard number to predict, but eventually it'll be all sheriff's office, staff and management over there once we get down that road through attrition and retirement and people just leaving on their own.
Commissioner Rios, we also have to make sure that we communicate with the unions. So it would be hard for Under Sheriff Majeski to give you that specific number, because we would have to make sure that there's no impacts to whatever unions that we have in each of the departments.
Your DOCs are not qualified to be sheriffs, but are they going to be given an opportunity to try to get that certification?
Absolutely. Yes. And that's our goal, is the ones that do, and you're going to see, they have such a large group of people. Some will and some won't.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we found through the process, is you're going to have your handful of people that want to come over and try to be deputies. And then you'll have the ones that all they want to do is be jailers. And that's
Okay.
great, because you don't want to lose that experience of them being the jailers. If they don't want to come, that's fine. If they don't ever want to work the street, that's fine.
Do they all sound like they're willing to go along with this process of change?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we've gotten great feedback from their union. I haven't heard anything negative. And there are the groups that we're already hearing, the ones that are making a vocal that they do want to come over and try to test to be deputies. And those, they'll have to go back through our process of, a background, just the stuff we have to do for a normal deputy. But yeah, so that door is open, and we would gladly accept the ones that want to come, as long as we have open positions through HR and whatnot.
Does that mean they have to go through a post certification?
Yes, they would.
Okay.
Yep.
Anybody else?
I had the same question Bill had, and it's been answered. I
Okay.
just want to comment. I think it's a great plan.
Okay. Bill, I think you wanted to make a motion.
I move that we create the position of the assistant sheriff and set it at range 374. And
I apologize, Commissioner Atwood, it would be just creating the classification. Sorry.
okay,
Sorry.
gotcha. So I move we create the classification of assistant sheriff.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the classification of assistant sheriff. Roll call.
Commissioner Atwood,
Yes.
Commissioner Weisner,
Yes.
Commissioner Fry,
Yes.
Commissioner Rios,
Yes.
Commissioner Myers.
Yes.
We have a 5-0 vote.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, 3B 7079, consideration to amend classification specification, occupational therapist.
About that? So this is another update to the classification, just to bring in more currents. Specifically, we were looking at the licensure requirements that were outdated and were not required to have day one of a job. So we made those updates to the licenses. And so it is just here to update before we conduct the recruitment.
But it is a new position, or are you just changing the specification?
We're just changing the classification, the current one. And before I forget, we just received union approval. They don't have any questions with the changes that we're making.
Was this brought on because of requirements for having these new licenses and things like that? Or
So no, the changes were brought on because there's two specific requirements under licenses and registrations that no longer exist or are required.
okay,
And so if we recruited like that, people wouldn't meet those MQs because they
okay.
no longer exist.
Yeah, I see it now. Yes.
Anybody else?
What is an occupational therapist? To me, it seems like it's a therapist for all county employees. Is something wrong with them or what?
So, do you want to go over that or more specifically?
Pull it up. So the occupational therapist is similar to a physical therapist. So somebody who has a degree and certification in occupational therapy, they work with individuals who may have disabilities with respect to their everyday living. So taking care of themselves, getting up, being able to go to work, those kinds of things versus the physical therapist that deals more with, the physical aspects of your body. Is probably, I think, a fair way to kind of summarize the position. Does that make sense?
My question was,
Mm.
are these therapists for county employees?
Oh, no,
No.
the occupational therapist, yeah, a good question. Thanks for repeating that. So most of the occupational therapists here in Madera County work for our children's therapy unit, which is run out of the public health department. They work primarily with children in the community who have needs of this nature.
I just have a comment. I find it interesting that you've added the phrase operate a computer, assigned office equipment, and applicable software, and it's how things have changed in that before it really wasn't necessary. Now it's practically impossible to do your job if you don't know how to operate a computer.
Else? We have a motion.
So moved.
Seconded.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the amendment to the classification of occupational therapist. Roll call.
Commissioner Fry,
Yes.
Commissioner Rios,
Yes.
Commissioner Weisner,
Yes.
Commissioner Atwood,
Yes.
Commissioner Myers.
Yes.
We have a 5-0 vote.
3C 7099 amendment of class specification public works inspector.
So this job description is another one that we need to update regarding the specific licensures that are required for the position day one. So I know we had brought this to you before, but in reviewing the requirements again and making sure that we're properly asking for the correct classifications, we worked with the department to make sure that the requirements were something that the employee can obtain after starting with the county. We conducted 2 recruitments, and both recruitments have been failed because the applicants have not been able to meet the requirements that we have currently of the classification. So if you see in the license and certificates, we actually made changes to where it allows them to get those requirements after hire. The department is aware that any individual that starts and is required to get anything after hire is at the expense of the department. The employee wouldn't be required to actually pay for those requirements. Our Matt Triever is here. If you have any questions specifically about the position and the changes that we're making to conduct this recruitment.
I think it's on now. Matt Trieber, Chief of Development Services. Thank you to the commission and to Elba for that. So yeah, we are here. This is a position that has been on the books for a long time, and at least in my almost 16 years with the county, has never been filled. I can't speak to that reasoning on why it has never been, but I will tell you, you can just drive the 41 corridor and see the demand for this type of position in just those 2 projects. I hesitate to tell you that, we've got a $12 million wastewater treatment plant that the county is about to accept and own and operate. It sure would have been nice, to have this, and it's no fault of anybody sitting here, and certainly no fault of HR. But, we're looking at that now, and this is a position that we need to get filled so that we can have someone inspecting all of these bridge projects we're doing, all of these road projects, sewer, water, everything that we've got going on, and have really someone driving that bus from the county perspective. So
I just have, it's not a question, but I want to say something because this is one of the points that drives me crazy. because I just want to make sure that within this 1 year, somebody is paying attention to make sure these people either get their certifications or in the process, because in years past, we've had inspectors that, you know, are here forever and they never get their licenses, and we've had it in the mental health or whatever. We've had it other departments too. And so I'm really picky about this when we have something where they don't need them by being hired. So you would just promise me you'll stay on top of that. I'd be in favor.
Absolutely, and I will say this by putting Elba and Michelle on the spot too. I can assure you that Elba and Michelle are not going to let me forget that either. So
Good.
kudos to them.
Snap that whip.
They don't hesitate to let me know when we need to do something. So no, I mean my case will be we're going to get the person in here and we're immediately going to send them to online courses and classes. Right? You'll notice they do require some experience and some qualifications, because we need someone who can kind of hit that ground running. Hence the commercial inspector, plumbing cert at a minimum. Those other ones are, frankly, and my public works folks say, not all that difficult to get, but they're kind of unique as well. So it's just, we've been not lucky or fortunate enough to have somebody walk in, which is, I'm sure, not uncommon, with 4 or 5 different cert requirements from day one. So.
Yeah, I can understand not having a backflow specialist unless you're already in that position or going for it. You know, there's no reason to have it for other jobs usually, but yeah, the plumbing and stuff is.
Yeah, but somebody could be the one backflow specialist inspector at a cocktail party. So
Yeah.
why wouldn't you want it? Well, with the added knowledge that those 2 fine ladies are going to be on your tail on it, I move that we adopt this.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the amendment to the,
No,
oh, go ahead.
You said you want to fill this position?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because it says on there, there's no financial impact, but there will be. It's
So-
not a new position. It's not been filled.
Correct, and it's budgeted. There's no impact. This would be fully funded through our Public Works Division, which is subvented. It's not general fund dollars per se. The only time that would intermix is if there is a county project that falls within the Public Works, where they were asking for, you know, an inspection on connection to a sewer main or a sewer line. We'd send our guy out there, but on most of our, you know, like public health and social services building, right, they had a dedicated inspector that they hired for that job on behalf of the county. So
Anybody else? Okay, it's been, oh, go ahead, Joe.
On agenda,
Talk into your microphone a little bit.
it's Public Works Inspector and gives a number and it says red line, and then the other one says clean. What does that mean?
So the clean version means that you're seeing the actual document without any of the changes, what the final document's going to look like.
The red line means that.
You see, there's the changes that we made from the document.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you scroll down, you'll see some red typing. That means. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the amendment of class specification for Public Works Inspector. Roll call?
Commissioner Atwood,
Yes.
Commissioner Fry,
Yes.
Commissioner Rios,
Yes.
Commissioner Weisner. Yes. Commissioner Myers.
Yes.
We have a 5-0 vote.
thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Matt.
Elba and Michelle.
If I might, Madam
Yeah, go
Chairman.
ahead.
Elba, what is the difference between red line of this particular one and others? We've gone from date of hire to date of appointment.
Which one are you looking at again? I
Well, I'm looking at
apologize.
this one that we just
Okay.
approved, but it's on multiple ones. It's changing the wording within 1 year from, used to say from hire, to now it says date of appointment. What's the real difference?
So there's no different. The date of appointment is the day that they start, the first day of,
So it's just somebody wanting to change words.
yes, we were messing with you.
Okay.
So if they get hired, but they don't start for a week or two,
I mean,
then.
if you're going to have to take care of Matt and make sure he stays on task, because obviously he's been slacking. Okay, that's why I'm asking the questions. I want to make
Thank
sure you're
you.
not slacking.
But could you have this guy check out the potholes near my house?
Dial 311 and quit asking
Oh,
that question.
I have dialed 311 and they say, tell Tom to stop giving our number out.
All right, 3D 7092, early expiration of employment and training worker one eligible list.
Good evening, Commissioner Sabrina Mendez, Human Resources Department. This is a request on behalf of Department of Social Services. They're requesting to expire the employment and training worker eligible list early. Based on their email, they've explained that it is an older list and would like a more competitive list. And in looking at the eligible list, it looks like they did hire 2 individuals. There were about 5 or 6 waived interviews, and so their hopes are just to expire this list. This is brought before you for your consideration.
I move that we expire.
I second it.
It moved and seconded that we expire the employment and training worker one eligible list. Roll call?
Bear with me one moment. Okay, roll call, please. Commissioner Fry,
Yes.
Commissioner Weisner,
Yes.
Commissioner Atwood,
Yes.
Commissioner Rios,
Yes.
and Commissioner Myers.
Yes.
We have a 5-0 vote to approve.
3E 7090, February leave of absence request, Mary Carol Huber. Consideration of leave of absence request, it's Office Assistant 1, Assessor's Office, from February 1, 2021 to February 28th, 2021.
Good evening. This particular request is before you. It was on your agenda last month as well, and the department is recommending approval of the timeframe. I will let you know that Ms. Huber does have a follow-up doctor's appointment early next week, and her current note is set to expire at the end of the month, and we do anticipate a return to work.
So that's why they approved it. Is that correct?
I would imagine that has something to do with it, yes.
Also, we have the supervisor.
Yeah.
I'll move that we approve this leave of absence.
I second it.
It moved and seconded that we approve the leave of absence for Mary Carol Huber. Roll call?
Commissioner Fry,
Yes.
Commissioner Rios,
Yes.
Commissioner Weisner, Yes. Commissioner Atwood,
Yes.
Commissioner Myers.
Yes.
We have a 5-0 to approve.
3F 7086, consideration of leave of absence request, Bill Williams, Building Crafts and Maintenance Worker 2, General Services Building Maintenance Division from January 21st, 2021 to February 28th, 2021.
So this request is before you for the first time. Mr. Williams recently utilized the first 30 days was approved by the department from December 20th through January 20th of 21. And the department is recommending approval of the current request through February 28th at this time.
Seeing that the department has approved it, I'll move we grant it.
No, I got a question though. His doctor's note comes from 11/18/20,
Correct.
and so that puts us 4 months out. Note was only good for 3 months.
So
So-
the employee utilized FMLA protected leave.
Right.
And then that was exhausted. And then I believe he may have received some donations through our catastrophic leave program. So he actually, his first 30 days of absent without pay was in December. And that's our process is for the department to approve those first 30 days before we bring it to the commission.
I'm trying to be nice today, but doctor's note. Have stuff kept more current unless you have something hiding.
So the doctor's note just indicates may return on 3/1.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the doctor's note was issued in November.
Right, but
And so
he
the
certainly has
anticipated-
seen the doctor since then.
Well, in this particular case, I think based on the reason for the leave, that it does not cause us a red flag when we see one like this that's several months out, just given the circumstances
Okay.
that we're aware of, so.
Yeah, you're privy to more stuff than we are.
Well, plus
Back
going,
off.
going to February
Right.
28th brings us to the 1st.
Correct.
So it,
Right.
it should cover anything that we have.
So hopefully we'll have him back on March 1st. We'll see.
Do we have a
Yeah.
motion?
Good.
We had
Didn't we
a
already have a
Do we?
motion?
Do we have a second?
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consideration of leave of absence for Bill Williams, Building Crafts and Maintenance 2, from January 21, 2020 to February 28th, 2021. Roll call?
Commissioner Atwood,
Yes.
Commissioner Rios,
Yes.
Commissioner Weisner,
Yes.
Commissioner Fry,
Yes.
Commissioner Myers.
Yes.
We have a 5-0 vote to approve.
3G 7087, consideration of leave of absence request. Is it Clee?
Yes,
Clee Canizales,
yes.
social worker, supervisor 2, social services department, from February 1, 2021 to February 2, 2021? Really?
Yes, that is correct.
Not a typo. Okay.
So this leave of absence request was before you last month, and the department had recommended disapproval, which your commission upheld or also approved. So you'll notice on this one, the recommendation is for disapproval only for February 1st, and then recommended for approval February 2nd. It's a little bit of an unusual situation. So as of February 1st, the previous month's action by the department were still in effect. As of February 2nd, the department and the employee were able to reach an agreement for some temporary light duty. And so the employee is actually back to work.
Are we ready?
Okay, I'm,
Orally concluded.
It's an unusual situation.
no, if it's beginning on February the 1st and ending on Groundhog Day, that's one day.
Well, so there are actually 2 days, yes, where she was.
So they're
not
inclusive.
back. Correct.
Okay, that would explain the 16 hours.
Yes.
It's just weird because one day is denied and one day is
Correct.
approved. So
The
how do we-
agreement was reached on February 2nd and signed by the parties, and returning her to work
So how,
the day after.
so how would we make a motion that we deny one day and approve? We deny it to make,
Yeah, I would think so. yeah.
okay. So you need a motion. I'll see if I can get this right. I move we deny the February 1st date. We approve February 2nd date for Clee Canizales. Am I making it as
Yeah.
clear as mud?
I think so.
So help me.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we do what he said.
I have a
Question?
comment to make on this department head report. They have approved, disapproved, and then you have modified as follows. Would that be the one modified as follows? None of those are marked.
Oh, Commissioner Rios, so instead of marking approved, disapproved, or modified, she spelled it out to try to clarify what her recommendation was, which was, as we just talked about, February 1st, she's recommending disapproval, and then February 2nd, she's recommending approval. So instead of marking the boxes, she was trying to write it out to clarify.
Yeah, it was.
Another question I have is, a lot of times you have a lot of department heads that approve, and then there's some that disapprove. They disapprove, is that because it's gonna create a problem within the department?
So typically, yes, there's an operational impact that is causing a hardship for the department.
No more questions.
Okay. Been moved and seconded. Roll call?
Commissioner Atwood,
Yes.
Commissioner Weisner,
Yes.
Commissioner Fry,
Yes.
Commissioner Rios,
Yes.
Commissioner Myers.
Yes.
I have a 5-0 vote.
3H7088, consideration of leave of absence request, Maria Lazaro Ramos, eligibility worker 2, Social Services Department, from February 1, 2021 to February 28, 2021.
So this leave of absence was also before you last month, and there has been actually some movement. The employee was scheduled to possibly return, and we were in the process of scheduling an interactive discussion with her to talk about the restrictions, et cetera. And then it was a separate issue, and then she actually has this particular time frame for another matter. And we expect to have an updated note with restrictions because we did not have clear restrictions. We believe we're going to get restrictions allowing her to return, assuming we can accommodate. We should have those this week, next week at the latest, beginning of next week.
Kind of reflects what her doctor note says.
Right.
3/8 possibly,
Correct. Yes, it was not very clear.
but they're still going to disapprove.
Yes, they have consistently recommended disapproval. It has been a hardship for their department based on what the department head has shared at the meetings. And
I move that we disapprove this leave.
I second it.
Been moved and approved, or moved and seconded that we disapprove the leave of absence for Maria Lazaro Ramos.
Roll call.
Oh, sorry.
Commissioner Fry,
Yes.
Commissioner Rios,
Yes.
Commissioner Weisner,
yes,
Commissioner Atwood,
Yes.
Commissioner Myers.
Yes.
We have a 5-0 vote to disapprove.
3I7089, consideration of leave of absence request, Riddell Almos, eligibility worker 2, Social Services Department, from February 1, 2021 to February 28th, 2021.
So this employee was also before you last month, and the department is recommending disapproval for this time period. The employee has been out and has exhausted his protected leave and has been absent without pay. There have been some issues with respect to compliance with receiving updated notes with clarification. So we're trying to work with the employee on that right now and should have an update if it continues through into next month. But at this point, the department is recommending disapproval.
Is the department head here, not here for a specific reason? Because they want us to disapprove some of these, especially when there's different circumstances going on or hardship. I would like to be able to talk to them. I don't want it going through you and putting it all
Sure.
on you.
Yeah. Typically, someone from the department would be here from social services. I do know that in this particular case, it was recommended for approval last month. It is recommended for disapproval this month, specifically due to the compliance issue. So the lack of compliance on the employee's part. That I can share with you.
So that,
Yeah.
that leads me to what I was going to get to eventually, was that I would request that the department head be here next month if these same two or one of these is still going to be a disapproval. I think we need to be able to see the department head.
I just want to note, I did talk to Deborah Martinez, who's the department head on this one, and she had another commitment that she had to go to as part of a board that she's already in for her area, and she could not miss. So she did indicate to me earlier today she was not going to be able to attend the meeting because she had, it's something to do with Department of Social Services, and so she had to attend that meeting.
Okay, that's fair enough. If that happens again, she must have a subordinate she could send.
Yes.
We'll
There's
let them
plenty of
know.
them, so.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
I make a motion that we disapprove the leave of absence request for Radel Olmos.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we disapprove the leave of absence for Riddell Olmos. Roll call?
Commissioner Weisner,
Yes.
Commissioner Fry,
Yes.
Commissioner Atwood,
Yes.
Commissioner Rios,
Yes.
Commissioner Myers.
Yes.
We have a 5-0 vote to disapprove.
Staff reports.
Okay, so I just wanted to remind you that we have 2 hearings coming up next month. The first hearing is going to be March 10th and 11th. It's a hearing that was rescheduled a couple of times last year, and so it was pushed over to this year. And that hearing will start at 5:30 on Wednesday, the March 10th. The other hearing that we have is on March 29th. It's a 3-day hearing that starts at 4:30. We will be sending you calendar invites to make sure that you have it on your calendar as well. Let me make sure that's. Yep. And then so I'm going to be asking or requesting to schedule a meeting with Commissioner Myers to go over some of the costs that we have coming up with the commission, so that way you're aware of all of the different things that are coming up with all of the hearings. That is at the request of our budget restrictions that we're going to have this year. So as a chair, I'm going to meet with you, just kind of go over all of the things that are coming up and potentially some maybe suggestions about how we can try to save some money. So
Normally, we don't have this many hearings. I mean, we can go years without any hearings, and now we have a ton all at one.
And we
We're
ought
gonna
get
have a lot
credit
this
for
year.
all those years of no
Yeah,
meetings at all.
They should have given us credit.
Right? Yeah, I think we're going to have a lot coming up this year, more than what you already have scheduled.
What do they think the commission itself can do to lessen the cost?
It's the cost of the council to the commission because of the amount of hearings that we have, how many days. So each day it adds up. So
And all their office work.
right. So just for example, the one that we had in December, just that one is 13,000.
Well, there is one thing I'd like to say, and I thought all the sides did a great job, but there was so much repetition. Once the evidence is brought in, I don't think we need 3 witnesses verifying the same information. He could pull it out, because I think Mr. McCann does a great job, but there, if one person already verified that information, we don't need 2 and 3 other witnesses, and I think that would streamline it a little bit.
In the
Well-
past, the 2 sides have gotten together and stipulated
Yeah,
stuff that is all covered by everybody,
and
so
then
they
just,
don't ask those questions.
yeah, and then just bring in the really important stuff. 'Cause
Right.
there were other times in the past where we would get our packet right when we sat down. If we can get our packets ahead of time and read them, that was very beneficial, because I'm a highlighter,
Yeah.
and I like to do that, and that saves us a lot of time asking questions that are already in the evidence.
I think for that purpose specifically, why council does that is in case the appellant appeals to the next body, that they follow through on every procedure that they have with the commission, and the commission didn't skip any process. But I think that's one of the reasons why there's so much repetition, because if at any point that person goes outside of this body to appeal to somebody else, and then they send it back because we missed something, it's one of the reasons why they push, and you see a lot of repetition happening
Yeah.
with that component. But so we are working on getting a link where they can submit their documents to us. One of the things that I've seen with our staff is one of the parties, which is typically county council, submits their documents to us on time, but the other party submits it to a different body, or there's changes that come in after the deadline. But I think for our purposes, is understanding what the commission wants us to actually bring to you after a specific deadline, because typically 10 days before the hearing. And so there's things that are being submitted to us after the fact. And that's one of the reasons why you might not have those documents, is because they weren't given to us before the deadline.
Too, the book that they give us isn't evidence yet until it's
Right.
actually asked to be entered as evidence. But those late documents, they tried to throw you under the bus like it was your fault. Well, if there's a deadline, then they don't get it.
Yeah.
So
So-
like that last document on that last hearing goes up all of a sudden and clearly, well, I'll have my opinions.
Right.
Myself on that.
And we worked on a letter with the Commission's counsel to send out to both parties that gives them specific instructions. I think where the issue that's coming up is it goes to my email instead of Veronica's email. My email gets bombarded with stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to create an actual link where they can upload the documents, and then we can actually have a timestamp of when things were submitted.
And the deadline needs to be adhered to.
Yeah, because we discussed not letting that come into evidence, but she had no other. And
Right.
that's really the only reason it was even considered bringing in after the deadline.
And one of the things we'll do is we'll also include the letter that we're sending out as part of the folder document. So that way you see when we send the letters out to both parties and what their deadlines are to submit documents to us. So we're getting better at it. I know we've had some hiccups here and there, but we're trying to develop a process where they actually just go to one place and submit it instead of trying to email all of us and then coming from different individuals. We don't know who they are sometimes from the law firms. And so we don't necessarily catch that's for this case or this case because
Yeah.
we don't know who the individual is. So,
And just, I want to say, the hearing we had where he was not represented, I gave him a lot of leeway to speak because, he just wasn't represented. Next one, I was a little more strict, but I think I probably let the explanations of how the department works go on maybe a little longer than I needed to. So I'll try to kind of cut that down, but there's always a fine line between being seen as
Right.
cutting them off and not giving them equal representation.
Yeah.
So you walk this little tight
Yeah.
rope, and
But most of the expenses from the lawyer are
Yeah.
not from sitting here because he's $1,400 a night. Most of that total cost is what he's doing off
the
in
prep
his own
time.
office. Because that's where he's building up time. If they're charging you $300 an hour and we're here for 4 hours, that's $1,200.
right.
Now, if he's charging driving time, okay, now it's $1,500.
Mm-hmm.
But got 4 nights there in this case. Last
Yeah,
one,
the one that was the 13, that was a 3-day
that
hearing.
was 3 days. So
Mm-hmm.
that's
Yeah.
only $4,500 out of $13,000.
Exactly.
A lot of their cost is there, so might want to be talking to them also. How can they trim some cost out?
We did.
Especially since we didn't have Kevin, we had a subordinate. Could have got charged a smaller rate.
So there was discussion also that, for years and years, department heads and supervisors have kind of been in the same position for 20 years or so and kind of lax. And now that they're retiring and we're getting some new blood, they're actually looking at the situations. And we're actually happy about that.
Yeah.
So we do realize that's one of the reasons we're seeing so many, but I think maybe if things get cleaned up and, forward, we won't have so many, because I know you guys try to settle things out of court, so to speak,
Yes.
as much as possible.
Michelle is doing all of the work. I try to keep out of it because I know I'm getting all the documents over to you, and I don't ever want to see that and an appellant has anything that's saying that the secretary of the commission is doing anything for the case. So Michelle typically handles all of the discipline with the department heads and all of the investigations, and then if they appeal, then at that point they come to me, and then we start reviewing all the matters. So she is working on a lot of stuff right now. So that's why we know that there's a lot of other stuff that are coming to you that haven't even been
Well, and
scheduled.
that if she should ever have to become a witness, she's able to, not the department head.
Right.
That
I-
circumvents that issue we had with the Skelly previously.
I don't know if it's the county or the county's attorney that's put together the packets. I think that for both of the most recent ones, I thought they were both very well put together. You do that? It was, you had the whole trail in, when I see the document and I look at the trail, I'm thinking, okay. And the documents that are submitted by the other side aren't there. And so that helps me to take all emotion out of the he said, she said. And to me, what you've presented is enough.
Mhm.
And I would look at the other evidence if it was presented, but there hasn't been anything or not anything that's,
Or it's come after the fact where,
yeah.
so if we're running upstairs, getting stuff is typically because it didn't come, or it was somewhere in my email that with a bunch of other 100 emails that,
Yeah.
so that's what we have to do the link with them. And county council has brought up is like, they typically are not late. They submit their stuff on time. And so there's times where I think there's different individuals that are working on documents from them. And so we know that James is typically working with Michelle, but if it's his assistant, we don't recognize the name sometimes. So it's hard to know who it is that's sending documents to us sometimes. And that's where we may miss
Well,
certain things.
because this has happened twice, the defense counsel or defense themselves brings in something late, does it go to Veronica or should it go to the county council first? To
So
see
it
if we
comes
can-
it goes to Veronica on behalf of me. So everything that we send out, the evidence has to come to the secretary. So the secretary puts the binder together to present to the commission. And so what Kevin did, he drafted an email that we send out to all of the appellants saying, okay, you have to do your pre-settling conference on this by this time. The commission hearing on this date, by this date, we need to submit all your evidence. And then they send it to us. What's missing from that letter is basically saying how they need to submit it and who they need to submit it to. So because it's from me, it's sent it to me automatically.
I understand that, but the
Right.
stuff that comes in past the deadline is what I'm saying. Does it go to Veronica or does it go to council? If they're trying to introduce evidence that's late or submit information
Right.
that they want to use as part of their evidence, it has to be approved by them. And I would assume Kevin's office before it's even attempted to be submitted as evidence.
Right, so if it's past the deadline, I think they bring it to the actual hearing and they ask the commission to accept it. I don't think we have the authority on our side to actually accept the additional evidence if we've already given a deadline. So sometimes what I'll see is either James or whoever the other person is that says, we like to bring this additional document, or we brought something, and they're asking the commission to accept it.
Okay,
So
then
we don't approve it on the
maybe
commission.
as a cost savings, we require that if they're going to bring something in, they send it to county council first before we get to this meeting, so they can look at it and at least decide if there's some real merit to it or if it's phony, because otherwise they're thinking on the fly,
Mhm.
and like all the rest of us, we're trying to look at it and understand it, and we just got it and then make choices on it, and it's not,
Right,
slows the process down. That's what
yeah,
it's
they have to read it.
It's
And,
designed to distract and deflect.
gotcha. I can work with Kevin on putting that part on the notice.
If that's something we can do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought your office has done a very good job on our hearings, so.
Thank you, appreciate it. Veronica and all of them have been handling all of that and doing
Thank
all
you,
the binders.
ladies.
I'm just glad to hear that you're concerned about the cost of the attorneys and not the high salaries of the
Oh,
five.
yeah.
They make more in an hour than we make total, so.
Yes, but it's one of the things, though, that I have always enjoyed about hearings. I'm as busy as the next guy, and I have a long drive home. But if I were the defendant, I might not like the outcome, but they cannot ever say that the chair was cutting them off. If anything, you lean way over to their benefit, and I applaud you for that. And I have felt on the hearings I've been on that we gave them a fair shot. And if anything, our chair leaned way, way, way over to give them, to be very fair
Yeah,
to
I
them.
tried, yeah,
and
especially
it
on the one
shows.
without representation. Yeah, that was a really touchy one,
Well,
No,
just wait
thank you.
until you've had a witness sitting beside you that perjures themselves and you know they did.
Oh, yeah. I had.
That's a lot of
yeah,
fun.
I've had that.
So other than that, I think that's the only other, that's the report that we have. Our staff is no longer teleworking effective this week. We're back all in the office, except for some individuals that need to, but we're slowly transitioning back into the office. So
Okay. Well, the only other thing we used to do is move our regular meeting on to a hearing night and make a short meeting. So if we're having more than one, we could do a short agenda and then another short agenda the next night. That would keep you from having another one like tonight, where we've already met several times. That's the only cost-cutting thing I can
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
of.
So
That would
that you
help.
have two options, and I think I would recommend that you do the end of March because of some items that we're working in our office that we're not going to be able to get to you if we had a schedule at the beginning of March. So if you wanted to move it, it would be March 29th. So you would move the regular meeting.
regular business meeting to 29th?
Mhm.
Okay.
Or-
As long as that
because-
doesn't affect anybody's.
Yeah, we're
has
already
to be
meeting
done.
at 4:30, so.
Yeah, you already have the,
Yeah, that'd save you the
Yeah.
money right there.
we have the 29th, 30th, and 31st.
Right.
An exciting week.
Hey, I'm spending my birthday on one of these, so hey.
Aw.
Can you give me those,
Buy me a room.
those times? That's March the 10th,
need the
11th,
water.
at what time?
5:30?
5:30,
5:30, and then you have March
29th, 30, and the 31st. And so we're moving, hopefully if the
4:30?
commission approves that to the
Yeah, 4:30.
4:30 on March 29th for the regular meeting.
Yeah, I think we'll put that, at least, it'll save you $500 and
So-
more.
So if your fiscal year ends June,
Mhm.
so we have to make it until June and sounds like we're going over budget. Do you foresee any hearings coming after March? Is that when this happens, is there a way to find money somewhere else to help cover some of these hearings?
Yeah, so I did, I met with the Deputy CAO for Finance. We have some ideas of how to potentially put this in our budget as, as a revenue item, if we have to maybe charge it back to the department later on, and then put it as an expense item as well. It just depends, how he wants to handle it moving forward. So we're in the middle of our budget, review right now, and I have to submit my budget in the next couple of weeks. And so that's what we're working on right now, is kind of addressing the significant increase that we have for this year when the commission side is only budgeted, I think, for $8,000 for the entire
Well.
year.
Yeah.
And so now we're going to have a cost potentially of $50,000 to $60,000 for this fiscal year.
Yeah.
And so, that's what he has some ideas, but we haven't finalized our budget yet.
Okay.
Yeah, but we are looking at it.
But I have to ask though, like that last case, and shut me off if I'm speaking out of school here. Assuming everything we heard was true, that the department knew she was going to retire in January when she was placed on administrative leave, it just seems to me from a business standpoint that if that had been the case, to have extended paid administrative leave and just say, if you will give us a letter of retirement right now, we don't have to go through the trial. It isn't on your record. And, and she probably had to wait until January for a cutoff for her retirement. And I just wonder if the county could start looking at negotiated.
They do the pre-settling conference. They do meet before the actual hearing. That's one of the requirements that you have in your rules, is to to do the pre-settling conference where they have to meet with each other, and then if they can't agree on anything, then they move forward with the hearing. So that
That's
is already
almost-
set up in the process.
That's almost too late by then, and that last one's case, if the department heads had realized, maybe they did, maybe they didn't, I don't know, of her potential time that she might retire, and start to use that, a little bit of compassion there.
Well, and
You
then
know,
we gotta
there were
be
some health
a little bit
issues.
careful what we're talking about, because most of the stuff was in closed session.
Yes.
Yes, so we definitely have to work on that. There is other things that the department has to work with admin if they are going to offer some type of settlement, because if that doesn't come through our office, it goes through admin, correct?
Well, Yes, it may go through admin as well. And typically, whenever you have any kind of disciplinary action that has appeal rights, part of that process, especially if it's a termination, is typically a discussion prior to even imposing any discipline that, if the department is willing to entertain that person's resignation in lieu of.
Well, or maybe what I'm trying to get at is, let's go a little step further. Let's look at their possible retirement dates. Instead of a resignation, now you work. We work with people that have some disabilities to be able to work at home or part-time, something that gets them through that process without having to do all this dirty work. If we can, if it's close enough to do it. Now, there's other circumstances involved, but that possibility should be afforded a long-term employee
if you're aware
it's
that.
feasible. And it may not always work, but it might work on one or two occasions.
And I think one of the things we have to be cautious about is identifying somebody based on their age.
Sure.
And specifying, well, you've been here long enough, you're eligible for retirement. That's something you might want to consider when that's not really, something we can have a discussion with everyone versus, we're willing to allow you to resign, whatever that means to you, in lieu of
Some
termination.
circumstances are based on health, some are based on attitude.
Yeah.
Or work
I know.
ability, work responsibility,
Done
doing a good
something
job,
you
bad
shouldn't
job.
have.
They're not all the
Yeah.
same. They're all
Right.
different. They come
Exactly.
around for different reasons.
True.
It isn't
Each
gonna always work, but
case is
If we
unique.
think open-mindedly, we can
Yeah.
maybe solve some of these nicely without getting the.
Well, yeah, and a lot, when you talk about, any other kind of issues, because of the interactive process, that's something that, if it lends itself to heading that direction in discussions,
Sure.
then those are things we certainly try to talk about, in the big picture, not, you should retire because you can't do this anymore. But hey, these are some options that might be available to you, including retirement.
Well, I know you've done
So-
PERS disability several times, numerous
Yes.
times for people, so I do know you work
Those
on
are
that.
obvious, but it's
One
when
of
they're
the
tied to some other discipline at the same time is when we start getting muddy water.
I have one more question. So back to this, you're anticipating a few more of these after March.
Probably after March, not before March. So it just depends on how fast the process gets done and all the skellies and all that stuff.
Are we
So
talking 1, 2, 3? Just so I have it in my mind, okay, I need to gear up for.
mhm.
Sorry.
I feel pressure.
It's just, I know it's not nothing spinal, but I'm just kind of wondering what are we talking?
Yeah.
Right.
I would say probably in the area of 2 or 3.
When you're
In
doing
the
the
fiscal year.
skellies, are we going to try to not have a department head that's doing the discipline also run the skelly?
Yes,
Just-
please.
By appearance, it looks bad.
So we're working on that process itself.
Okay.
We are reviewing, again, our budget for specifically, maybe there's some things that we can do in our department to assist in some of that process. So for example, in other places that I've worked, you've had a full-time investigator in the HR office that does all of the investigations. That's an idea that we have, looking so where the department itself is completely out and somebody else neutrally is doing the actual investigation. So that's one of the things that we're looking at. County Council is looking at how legally we are liable if the department head is serving. I mean, in other places, their department heads do participate in the process, and there are other places where they don't. But again, that has to come from, either Kevin giving his opinion and then County Council giving his opinion on how we need to move forward. We are going through an HR audit right now with an outside consultant who is reviewing our processes and making sure that we're doing everything on our side. It's more on the disability accommodation side, but that potentially can also lead to other processes that we're doing in our department or are not doing in our department that we should be focusing on. So essentially, we are going to have, I don't know if it's going to happen within the next few ones that you're going to be seeing.
That may be too late.
Yeah, it'll probably be too late by that point.
But as a suggestion, sometimes
Yes.
if they could get another department head that understands what's going on with that particular job or whatever, don't want somebody that doesn't know anything
Yes.
to be take away that appearance of impropriety.
The other thing I'd love to see is on the evaluations, it was tough. You either have incompetent or competent. There was no middle ground. Makes it very tough if you're the manager and you've known a person for 10 or 15 years. I would love to see like a 10-point scale with a notation that says 7 and above is competent. So you have a really competent person. This person has been around for 15 or 20 years and they're the go-to person, but you can still give them a 7, or you could give them a 6 and say, hey, you're just letting me down a little. So something to think about.
I think we do have to schedule, so I don't know if you guys know this, but in the ordinance, it does say that staff is supposed to provide an annual report to you. I don't know if we're not, but one of the things that we need to do is set up an actual planning meeting every year, or like an administrative meeting where we present that information to you. So I think what we need to do is kind of have that planning meeting and address some of the things that you guys are seeing, so we can kind of start working on that on our side and actually start developing the annual report, which will show all the work that we did every year. So that would probably be where I'm taking notes, a lot of the stuff that you're
Sure.
saying, but I think we also do need some type of meeting where we're kind of getting some feedback from you on what we need to bring back to administration and say, look, this is the areas that the commission is really need the county to improve on.
Yeah, I think we were all in agreement on the evaluations need to be redone, because we felt if a scale gave you a little more latitude and it wasn't so cut and dry and you got like 3 choices and that
Well,
was it.
The comment section didn't fit the scale.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, giving them a satisfactory, and then you're
And you
downplaying
have
them
all
on the
these
comment side.
need
doesn't
improvements
fit.
on.
You know, we can't be nice guys all the time. You know,
Well, when you're talking
Sometimes-
about nonprofits or government agencies, when CAPMC redid our evaluation tool, it took like 2 years. And it was, I mean, that's a pretty big I mean, it doesn't seem like changing the tool would be a big process, but it is.
Because you got the MOUs and the unions involved, and it does. Does a PIP take the place of an evaluation?
No.
Okay, I was just curious, because sometimes the evaluation, what's happening and what reason, okay? Well, my point is, it has been all along from 15, 20 years ago, I sometimes don't want to see an employee sitting in this chair be his supervisor for failing to train them properly, by failing to do the system they should be doing. And they should be held accountable as well.
So do you guys, would the commissioners like to schedule a meeting where we can address it? So the only concern that I have right now is we have our staff reports and we're discussing a lot of things. I just want to make sure that we're not discussing things that we might be in violation of the Brown Act. So do you want to schedule a meeting where you have, what I've done in the past when I used to work with another commission, it was a meeting where the commission gave a lot of direction on specific areas that they wanted the staff to be looking at. So is that something that you want to do maybe this at the meeting that we have on March 4th, or you want to schedule a special meeting just for that? So we are addressing administrative issues that are what you need done for from our department.
Your
I
point
just
is
don't want to
right.
get too much off topic, you know what I mean? So
We probably should agendize it so it isn't a violation of Brown Act.
Yeah, like a closed section for like maybe 10, 15 minutes, limited to like one thing at a time, so we don't go off the rails and.
Well, even in a closed session, it still needs to be agendized.
yeah.
Yeah, no.
If you can come a little bit earlier, March 4th, maybe we can do it that day. Sorry, March 10th, I apologize.
March 10th is our regular.
It's a hearing.
It's a hearing day, 4:30.
I'm going
But
back
if
to
we're
the
going to have
calendar.
an agenda,
We wouldn't be doing that with other people present, because some of the topics have come up because of the hearing, so we wouldn't
Correct.
want to fuel the fire.
it'd have to be
Okay.
closed session.
Well,
I,
I'll ask Kevin, because typically the only reasons, there's only specific reasons why you can do closed session.
Uh-huh.
When there's planning meetings, they're typically done in open. But if there is going to be any discussion of, I'll ask Kevin,
Okay.
because typically any planning meetings that I've done in the past with other commissions have always been in open session. They've never been closed.
Okay.
Okay, then I think we should wait until it's not attached to hearing, because to me, it might open something up for the other side to.
Okay.
Okay.
Alba, the other thing to consider, would say would be, how often are you gonna have those evaluations? Once a year, twice a year?
Yeah, it's supposed to be
3
every
times a
year.
It's supposed to be, yeah, there's
it's in the
certain
code.
MOUs have specific stuff, and then the county ordinance has specific when they're supposed to be doing that, enforcing that.
Okay.
But
March-
we'll schedule
March-
something.
March 10th just threw a curve at me. What days are we meeting in March?
March 10th to 11 is a hearing for Officer Duarte.
Okay.
Sorry.
And we're not having a regular board meeting, a commission meeting until the 29th.
Correct, the
The
29th.
29th.
So the 6th,
Correct.
16th was moved to the 29th.
but we may want to hold that open because 2-day hearings have turned into 4-day hearings.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
we're all busy, and if we just at least keep that available,
Time slot. Yeah, maybe.
Okay. So if you keep the 16th open, then we potentially can add a presentation item or something for the planning portion
Okay.
on the 16th. And then you're not tying it into any hearings at all.
I had my dates a little different on that. Okay, 9th,
Okay.
10th, and 11th.
So the 10th and the 11th, right?
All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
The special hearing
Oh, sorry.
is March 10th and March 11th,
Right.
Got it.
okay? And then we have the other one on March 29th, 30th, and 31st of March.
Okay, one more side note. Please get me a pass key for the door.
Yes, we got it.
Promise not to lose it, but once.
And then there was a motion to adjourn, right?
Yeah. Did anybody make a motion?
I so move.
We have a
I did,
second?
you're saying.
Elizabeth seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Sciatica.
Okay, so what day is,
Meeting on the,
no, the school board one.
oh, the
24th. Yeah, 24th. Okay. I'll be there because I'm clerk. So no, not our boards, but we're on the same dates. Tuesdays are always bad for us. Me, anyway. So as long as we stay off the first, the second, and fourth Tuesday, I'm okay. Yeah. Not behind you.
Well,